First off, before I begin this video, I just want to say the Dead Space Remake is a fantastic game. I think overall, it is probably a better game than the original. There are just so many improvements, but there are a few things I think the Dead Space Remake really kind of dropped the ball on. So just to be clear, I think Dead Space Remake is an amazing game. If you haven't played it, you are missing out and should go play it right now. So anyways, the disclaimer's done. Let's get to the list. Number 1. First thing the remake seemed to overlook was the black tentacles that come out of the necromorph limbs when you shoot them. I thought this was something that was super cool from the original game. When you shoot off any limb, you just get these writhing black tentacles, and it's just really fucking creepy. And it just gives these dead creatures even more life. I mean, even before they've stopped moving, like if you shoot off an armor leg, the tentacles will still come out of them. It's just really fucking cool. And I was pretty surprised and bummed out this was not in the remake. I think with current video game technology, like they could have made this effect really fucking cool. Like who knows really what they could have done. So you can see in the clips here, when you shoot off the necromorph arms and legs and heads and whatever, you get no black tentacles. Quite unfortunate. I think the tentacles also, I don't know, they just work really well with the necromorphs because it's almost like foreshadowing for the final boss fight, which is just a big tentacle monster. There's a lot of other aesthetics in the Ishimura that kind of look like the tentacles too. So anyways, that's it for number 1. It's pretty nitpicky, I guess, which is why it's also number 1. So moving on down the list, number 2. The slashers. The slashers in the remake are fine. They look creepy, they are highly detailed, but they lack the pure aggression that the original slashers had. And they also lack a bunch of other things. And I'm not talking about like graphical fidelity or anything like that, but let's just talk about the aggression first, because what I thought was really scary about the original games, and I guess what is still scary about the original game, is the slashers have this aura about them that they want you dead. They want to kill you right now, right this second. They're going to get to you as fast as they can and stab you to death right now. They seem like they are fucking angry and fucking pissed. And it's like they're so mad they've like gone insane and they're just writhing in this anger, just screaming in rage with their only goal to kill you. And when they burst through a vent or a door or whatever, you better believe they're going to make a beeline for your ass. And if you're not prepared, you will probably take some damage or maybe even die. And if they aren't sprinting at you, they're also doing this fucking really creepy-ass walk animation that's just, it looks just really strange, like creepy and painful, like the slasher itself is in pain as it makes its way to you. I don't know, it makes me think just like, Jesus, why is it walking like that? What the fuck? Now let's look at the remake slashers in this aspect. They look good. They look different but good. They're pretty true to the original, but they aren't angry. They lack all the aggression that made the OG slashers so terrifying. I don't get the feeling that this thing is fucking pissed and wants me dead right now, right this second. Instead, it just feels like, I don't know, a zombie or something walking towards me. And if it's not walking, it sometimes does this like little jog that isn't much faster than a walk. And every once in a blue moon, one might leap a few feet at you, but that's pretty fucking rare. For the most part, they just walk at you. So they rarely ever move fast towards the player. And they also don't have that creepy-ass walk animation that I was just talking about on the original slashers. They don't have the angry, rage-induced insanity aura about them. I guess they want to kill you, but like they could put in a little more effort, you know? I mean, this guy can't even hit me. This is on hard difficulty as well. All the clips in this video are on the hard difficulty in both games, just FYI. It's not to say the remake slashers are bad or anything, just I think they were missing that relentless anger that the original slashers had. I think the difference in aggression between the original and the remake can be summed up pretty good by looking at how the game presents the first necromorph that you as the player have to fight. So, here's the original. Here's the remake. The original is way more intense, way more aggressive, way more up in your face. It wants to kill you really badly. You don't get time to start really shooting at it before it's already moving to you. Yeah, let's not even talk about like the puke and stuff coming out of the original's mouth. Oh, and the tentacles. Like that's fucking really sick. Just really fucking scary too. I don't know if the necromorphs in the remake actually vomit and stuff like the original did. I don't think they do. And the remake here, I mean, I can easily start shooting this thing before it's even out the door. Now let's look at the crawling animation, because this is one area I think the original just completely wins. Like, oh, man, when you shoot the legs off of the slashers in the original game, the way they crawl at the player is just fucking insane. I mean, look at that. Like, what the fuck? How do you even... I can't even put words to describe really what that looks like. Like, I don't know, some sort of fucked up insect, like a slug with big slashing arms. I don't know. That's fucking creepy. The way it twitches and moves, like, holy shit. And I mean, the remake slashers look fine when you shoot their legs off and they crawl at you, but it almost looks like what you would expect it to do, right? It's creepy and looks good, but it loses that weirdness and that twitchy animation of the original. It doesn't move like some sort of fucked up insect. It just moves how you would expect it to move. The original slasher, when it lands, you can hear it stabbing into the metal. Like, that is a impactful sound effect. Like, it has weight. And like the remake slasher, I don't know, the animation just looks really floaty and weightless. There's no like sound effect when its arms hit the ground. It's just pretty tame compared to the original. And I mean, these are some really small details, but the devil's in the details. Now, let's talk about some things the remake completely just left out from the slashers. These next things they're kind of important because they do affect the gameplay. In combat with a slasher, if you shoot its midsection body, it'll sometimes go to a defensive stance and walk at you while protecting itself, guarding itself, and it's like really fucking cool and immersive. But the remake, it doesn't have that at all. It also doesn't have slashers trying to sidestep your shots. They just walk straight at you pretty much always. They don't try to dodge anything. They don't go into defensive stance. And now, this is probably the biggest thing I was really kind of surprised was not in the remake, because, I don't know, I thought this was something that anyone who played the original Dead Space experienced and thought was really cool. And that is, in the original game, if you shoot off a slasher's head, it will start flailing around aimlessly as it moves kind of towards you. It's super fucking immersive. It looks fucking cool. It makes sense because they don't have eyes or ears, so they just start swinging blindly. It also punishes the player for shooting the head when you're supposed to be shooting off their limbs, because now the limbs are harder to hit, the creature's more dangerous, it's harder to run around. And when you're in the middle of combat with a bunch of necromorphs and you accidentally shoot one's head off and it starts doing this, it can just straight fuck you. And the remake doesn't have this at all. Instead, in the remake, when you shoot off their heads, they just act the exact same way they do with their head. There's no change, which is kind of a bummer. Number 3, dumbed down encounters. There are many areas of the remake where the encounters are really tame and just like dumbed down compared to what they used to be. This is really true for areas early on in the remake, like, I don't know, the first 3 chapters or so. In the original game, there was a lot more design to the encounters than just the necromorph appears. And a lot of times when I'm playing through the remake, that's what I feel like. It's just like they set up the scare, it's good, there's tension, and then the necromorph appears, and then you kill it, and that's it. But in the original Dead Space, the designers were so good at crafting the scares that they pretty much knew what the player would do after the scare happened. And that way, they kept the pressure up on you throughout the whole thing. And I think it's something that makes Dead Space really special, just because it's that well designed. And just so you know what I'm talking about here, let me show you some examples. So we're going to start with the original game first. I'm going to play a clip, and then afterwards, I'll play it again, and I'll go through and I'll talk about what I was thinking as a player, and then we will compare it to the remake, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about here. So right away, the warning sirens and lights are going off, so I know there's necromorph somewhere. I don't know where. Sure enough, here they come. I see the one crawling at the end of the hall, and then one jumps out behind me, and then I hear, to my left, another necromorph. So I'm like, okay, no problem. This ain't shit. I'm just going to go back the way I came, towards the lift, put my back against the wall, and kill them all. So I start running back. I'm still in control here. I got a plan. And then this guy right here just fucks my whole plan. It's a clever trap laid out by the developers. And now pure panic sets in. And you can see in real time as I panic here, before I finally regain myself and kill these guys. And on first playthrough, if this were to happen to you or something similar, which I think it does happen to a lot of players in this section, you're forced to run straight ahead forward blind into an area you haven't explored yet. Check out those tentacles, yeah, that's pretty cool. And typically in this game, running forward blindly is like running forward blindly into a meat grinder. So it's fucking scary. I think this whole room was designed in a really clever way. This is kind of off topic here, but this necromorph that comes out of the vent actually scared the living shit out of me. Because it'd been a while since I played the original, and I just was not, or I didn't remember any slasher looking like this thing. I mean, what the fuck even is that? So now let's look at the same area in the remake.
Quarantine lifted.
So yeah, I mean, the enemies just kind of walk at the player, one by one. There isn't any sort of encounter, really. It doesn't seem like it was something unique planned out by the developers for the player to experience. They just kind of throw enemies at you one by one. I don't know. I mean, this is just one example, and we'll look at another one in a second, but there's a lot of similar areas like this throughout the game where, I don't know, it wasn't like a unique scenario played out. It was just something bland in the same kind of environment of the original. All right, let's look at another example, and this time we'll look at the remake first. I'm going to play the clip and then I'll talk about it. And then we'll do the same thing with the original. I mean, there's almost not really much to talk about. Like, the door opens, the lighting's flickering and flashing. It's pretty creepy. But it looks like the other areas you've already seen in the ship. Nothing really stands out. The necromorph jumps into a vent, so it's like, oh shit, where did he go? Hope he doesn't come out behind me. Surprise, he comes out right in front of you. And then you get the crawling one coming up on your flank. But it's slow as fuck because it's crawling. And it's already slow as fuck. And, I mean, it's a pretty standard encounter for this game, how this one plays out. Nothing really special. It's pretty cool, but not, like, mind-blowing, right? So now let's look at the same area from the original. When this door opens, you get that creepy walk animation. It's also flashing red, like that thing was a demon from hell or something. This is the first time in the game you see lighting that's red like this. And the lights are flashing. It almost looks like fire or something could be down this room, right? Like something out of hell, a nightmare. So it's similar to the clip we just watched. The necromorph leads you around the corner and it goes into the vent. But here, you can hear the necromorph waiting for you at the top of the ramp right around the corner. So it's like, fuck, do I really want to go up there right now? Is that one that just went in the vent? Is he going to come out behind me? Like, shit, like, let me think about this for a second. But they don't give you time to think. They know you're fucking procrastinating. So the necromorphs come at you head on. And around the corner, here he comes with that fucking creepy-ass walk. And then the other one, boom, pops out behind you. Like, fuck, I knew it. But you also know that that hallway behind you is nice and long and would be nice to just shoot some limbs off in a shooting gallery. So I run down the hallway and then look what happens. And I mean, this moment right there, I mean, holy shit. Just fucking look at that. Would you look at that? That is just something, I don't even know. That's just really fucking cool in my opinion. I don't think any of the slashers in the remake will ever look anything like that. Like, fuck. And once the first scare happens with the necromorphs and I run down the hallway, I think that Most developers would probably leave it at that, let the player run away and then shoot the necromorphs, but not in the original game. And this is what I mean when I'm saying they keep the pressure on the player. Look what they do here. And I imagine like a really casual person might say, man, that AI, it knew what I was going to do and it went up in the vent and it came down right in front of me. But like I know the AI doesn't actually have intelligence per se, but that it's the developers and the designers who set up the encounter this way. And to me, it's almost more scary as a player in the moment thinking the fucking developers knew what I was going to do. A lot of times when I play horror games, it does feel like it's me versus the developer. Like they're trying to scare me and I'm trying to play the game. And I don't play horror games and say, oh, I'm not going to get scared. I'm not trying to be scared, because that's fucking stupid. If you really, really want to, you can disconnect yourself from like the game and play through it without getting scared. It's not that hard to do. But I like to be immersed in the game and really get into it. So if the developer does put in the work, they can scare the shit out of me. I have played a lot of horror games. I'm probably not the easiest person to scare. But when I'm playing a game like this and I start thinking, holy fuck, how did they know I was going to do that? Once they get into your head, it's over. The whole rest of the game, you just know you're fucked. You know they have tricks up their sleeves. You know they're going to get you. And I fucking love that feeling because it's really fun because you don't know what's coming. It's great. And unfortunately, I don't get that feeling a lot in the Dead Space remake. And I don't mean to say the Dead Space remake is not scary, because it is pretty fucking scary. But it doesn't, maybe sometimes I do get that feeling, but for the most part, like it never reaches that level to where they keep the pressure up after the scare and keeps pushing it to where you realize what you thought was the scare, the big payoff, that wasn't even the scare. They haven't even hit you with it yet, but it's coming soon. So it's scary to me that in the original game, they know what your plan is and they keep the pressure on you and they keep it coming. And it makes the game more fun. It forces you to think on your feet, forces you to react fast, and it's fucking scary. Like, I wonder if there is some feral cats right outside my door fighting. I'm sure my mic picked it up because it was loud as fuck. I'm just going to leave it in here. So, yeah, a lot of the encounters in the remake, and all of this is going to play into my number 5 on the list. But anyways, let's go on to number 4. The audio. And you might think I'm crazy for saying this one. Yes, Dead Space Remake just won audio of the year or whatever. But I think if you hear me out, you'll see where I'm coming from. So first, let's talk about the ambient sounds. Not the music, but the ambience, background sounds. And in fact, when I would revisit Dead Space, I'm actually such a fan of like the ambient sounds. I usually play Dead Space with the music track completely turned off. I didn't play it like that in these earlier clips because when I was filming for this video, I wanted to play through both games how they were meant to be played. But usually I turn off the music track completely, and it just gives the game a whole different atmosphere, a really more kind of horror atmosphere. And so the original game, the ambience tracks are like God tier. They are thick and layered, and there's so much unique sounding shit. And every single environment just has these really cool ambience tracks going on. So for the next few examples, I'm just going to play the ambience of the original versus the ambience of the remake. And I ask that you really turn up your headphones or speakers and really listen. And don't worry, there's no sudden loud noises or fucking jump scares or anything like that. Just pure horror atmosphere. So first up, the original game. And here we go. Alright, pretty cool, yeah? So now let's listen to the same spot from the remake. And while the remake sounds okay, it's all just really thin. And this is pretty nitpicky, but it's like, I don't know what it is exactly. The original game's atmosphere and ambient sounds, it's just so thick and foreboding. Like you can almost feel like the pressure pushing down on you from the sound. But here's another example. First, the original. And when you're listening, notice how the steam coming out of the ground almost sounds like breathing, like the ship is alive or something. Okay, now let's listen to the same section from the remake. It is similar, but overall it's just not as good. It lacks the steam breathing sound I was talking about. It lacks that beefy thickness that I usually give your mom. And while I don't think the remake's ambient audio is bad by any means, I was a little disappointed that it went more for that thin, overproduced sounding route than the thick foreboding of the originals. Even if the remake is more realistic sounding, I think it's almost scarier that the originals almost doesn't sound realistic in a way. I mean, the marker's influence made people turn into fucking necromorphs within hours. Isaac is obviously going insane, so it would make sense that, maybe the sounds he's hearing are fucked up and aren't normal. For other sound effects, I really am not a fan of the new plasma cutter sound. The original plasma cutter has a beefy sound, doesn't really sound like a weapon firing off, but just some sort of loud fucking tool. It's loud and it's fucking mean. It doesn't want to sound pretty, because it doesn't want to do pretty things. And when you shoot off the limbs of necromorphs with this thing roaring, it feels pretty fucking good. Now compare this to the remake plasma cutter. While once again, if you were to look at this like as its own standalone game, it would be pretty good. It'd be fine, like no complaints here really, but compared to the original, to me it sounds very thin, very like, I don't know if overproduced is the right word, but that's what it sounds like. It sounds too like computer effecty to me. Like what you would think of a generic futuristic plasma weapon rather than a futuristic cutting tool. It almost sounds like something you would hear in Star Wars, like a blaster. Alright, and that's it for the audio department. I could probably go on, but it's pretty nitpicky. So now we're going to move to my biggest gripe, number 5, the difficulty. And this really kind of ties in with the tame encounters I was talking about earlier and with the non-aggressive necromorphs of the remake. I'm really not sure what happened in the difficulty department, but EA Motive dropped the ball hard here. This game is seriously one of the easiest fucking horror games I've ever played. My first playthrough, I was checking the difficulty multiple times to make sure it was indeed set on hard, and when recording clips for this video, I was doing like really stupid stuff, like wasting ammo and shooting necromorphs' heads off and like shooting all their limbs off after they were dead to try to get cool shots, like cool camera shots, footage. Spamming my stasis over and over on a single necromorph so I could look at it and its animations and shit. And doing all this dumb shit and wasting resources, it did not affect my playthrough even in the slightest. I did not die a single time when playing through the game for clips for this video. This was not New Game Plus, so none of the weapons were upgraded or anything like that. Halfway through the game, I even ditched the plasma cutter. I don't even know if I took out my upgrades. I just straight threw it in the inventory, or threw it in the bank, and just because I wanted to have fun and decided to just start maxing out the flamethrower at that point for shits and giggles. And there were some close calls, but to me, it is insane that someone can play on the highest difficulty of a game like this and just casually stroll through the game with 0 deaths. This is my biggest gripe with the remake. It is just so incredibly easy. I don't understand really what they were thinking. To be 100% honest, the hard difficulty in the remake feels like it should be the easy setting. And I'm not even kidding, it is that fucking easy. It's really bizarre, to be honest. Fucking pisses me off is that if you go to the difficulty settings, there is a goddamn story mode option. And this fucking pisses me off that they fucking put any time into even making this fucking thing. And if you're playing Dead Space, and it's fucked up too, because if you play Dead Space, maybe you're like, oh, I'm not very good at games, I'm gonna play story mode. You ruined the fucking experience for yourself. Because it is supposed to be hard, it's supposed to challenge you, it's supposed to be a survival horror game. So the developers, they fucking take that experience from you by not challenging you. I can't fucking stand when people say, oh, it's too hard, I can't do it. Shut the fuck up. You can do it. You just haven't fucking tried. And if you don't want to try, then this game's not for you. And the developers clearly did not realize that because they put time and resources into a fucking story mode instead of adding things like to the slashers to make them cooler. And in a way, it feels like, as a Dead Space fan, I get punished by not getting the full amount of time and resources put into the game because some other players said, well, can't we have a story mode? Because I don't really want to try when I play. Even whatever fucking people at EA said, we need to add a story mode. Fuck you. I hope you fucking quit. Get the fuck out. And what makes Dead Space great isn't the fucking story. The story's whatever, it's okay, it's fun. It's about the fucking moment-to-moment gameplay and the scares and the atmosphere, that survival horror. It fucking pisses me off that the developers had this idea to even put a fucking story mode into the game. Like, what the fuck were they thinking? I can't even imagine how easy it is, because the hard mode in this game should be the easy setting. So it's probably just ridiculous how easy it is. And the original Dead Space is not the hardest game by any stretch of the means, but it did feel like a hard difficulty, and it was somewhat challenging. And when I was playing through the original Dead Space for this video, I played it in the exact same way. I was doing stupid shit to try to get cool footage, wasting ammo, wasting stasis, all my resources. I paid the price for wasting ammo dearly to where it was like, okay, this feels like a game on the hard difficulty. I died so many times, more times in about 20 minutes than I've ever died in the remake. And you know what? Having to figure out ways to barely get by, having to actually think about how much ammo I have or how much health packs I have, it was fucking fun. It started to feel like, fuck, how am I actually going to do this? How am I actually going to get past this part? Because the developers of the original game wanted to kill you. They got into your head, they knew what you were thinking, what you would do, and they say, okay, if you're going to do that, then we're going to throw this leaper at you. Surprise! We're going to trap you, and good luck. Better not miss your shots. But if you play smart and manage your inventory well, you can lock into a well-designed flow that is challenging, terrifying, and a fuck ton of fun. So, that's pretty much it for this video. And I'll probably make a full Dead Space video shortly, because the remake is awesome, and so is the original game. And I hope this video didn't come across as me like hating on the remake, because it is a really good game. It's a fantastic game. It's actually one of the best remakes. I know I got a little angry back there, yelling about the difficulty, but it is true. It's some bullshit. And I hope this video didn't come across as me like hating on the remake, because it's a really good game. But it's not perfect, unlike Kendra's ass. I mean, I do see a lot of YouTubers talking about how, oh, it's the most perfect remake ever, it's literally the best. 10 out of 10, like, it's not that perfect. So I'll make a video that will be more positive towards the old Dead Space soon. Until then, stay safe and watch those vents. You never know when